This is a 1920 Ricoh key used to primary key a high-power spark transmitter. The Cadillac of amateur keys was the Boston key made by the Clap-Eastham Company. The components were mounted on a marble base and sold for the high price of $15 in 1915. Only the affluent ham could afford one. One of the old standbys for the radio amateur was this rugged key made by Bunnell. It has been in use by radio amateurs for nearly 75 years. Now for some related objects. This is a Bunnell telegraph practice set. The key would mechanically operate the sounder at right. I trust you're all well aware that there are two codes. The original Morse, which one copied by clicks around a sounder. And the Continental used in radio transmission. This chart shows the difference. Note, for an example, the letters C and F. All told, there were 11 characters plus numbers and punctuations difference between the Continental and the original Morse. This is a manual code learning machine. Most machines of this type, however, were spring wound, such as the Omnograph. This is a box relay used in early landline telegraphy. The key was mounted on the same board as the box relay sounder. Such objects date back in the 1800s and are highly collectible. Here's an odd practice set. In addition to the key at right, one could manually run the pencil-like object at left through the grooves, completing the circuit for dots and dashes. Some keys have historical significance. This key, now in the W3WRE collection, was used by Ray Myers' W6MLZ, which he used to send the SOS from the polar submarine Nautilus, summoning help for the stranded Wilkins expedition in 1931. Truly an historical key. This wireless key was used in early Fessenden equipment. Fessenden was a famous pioneer who made the first musical broadcasts on Christmas Eve in 1906. A close-up of the nameplate. And this may well be one of the largest keys. A commercial key made by Massey Wireless, which supposedly keyed a high-power Alaskan spark station. Massey outfitted early steamers operating between Massachusetts and New York. Another little collectible item. A replica tie clasp worn by old-time RCA operators. And now for the smallest, an exact J.H. Bunnell replica, and one can see the size by comparing it with a penny. The key and sounder are part of a key set given to Western Union executives and is highly prized by key collectors. Does it work? You bet it does. Mounted under the marble base are two AA batteries. Press the key and the little sounder will click. Both the W3WRE collection and the AWA Museum have several historical, one-of-a-kind keys. This is the charred remains of the Viproplex that sent the SOS from the burning ship, the Morro Castle, in 1934. Authenticity of the key is verified by the radio operator who sent the SOS. Ironically, in later years it was determined that this radio operator who sent the SOS was really the firebug who started the fire. Commercial spark stations were phased out shortly after World War I. Old-time amateur stations are also of the past, except this one, such as 2AN at the AWA Museum. And surprising, there are still many radio amateurs who still prefer the straight hand key over a semi-automatic or a electronic keyer. Fortunately, there's an interest in early landline equipment with several fine collections, including a quadruplex system at the Ford Museum. The crude instrument in the foreground is an 1840 replica of a code receiving machine, recording dots and dashes on a paper tape. An early collector was Stu Davis, W2ZH, who had an excellent collection of both landline and commercial radio keys. If you're a key collector, we highly recommend Bill Holly's book on the history of the Viproplex. Bill did a terrific job, K1BH, in recording and documenting the history of this famous semi-automatic. The AWA Museum has 3 areas devoted to keys and landline equipment. This is the end of our story. The use of landline Morse disappeared years ago, and the use of commercial CW is just a matter of time. But as radio amateurs, let us keep the use of code a viable means of communication. So long, everyone, or should I say 73s.